All right, so Sunday, October 19th, we're going to knock out a real quick overview and sort of training, teaching on using the mobile FNA and why the mobile FNA is such a powerful tool when you think about the fact that the majority of your clients, the majority of all clients, right? They really don't know. They don't have a plan. They don't know what a financial independence number is. When they think about retirement, they think about like, I don't know, 65, 67, that sort of thing. They're not thinking about like, well, if you just had the money, you could retire whenever you feel like, right? And so that's what we're gonna focus on tonight. Obviously, none of this ever changes. Here's kind of what we're looking at in terms of the agenda, right? Like the purpose behind it, where do you get to it, who benefits from it, right? Everybody. So we'll give you that one up front. And then sort of how to access it step by step. And I'll kind of walk you through some of the things that I say along the way when I'm using it, right? And so, like Gary, for you, like early on, like this is a great tool for you to just sort of like get comfortable playing with. And so, like if you want to do some training, right, quick access into like the FNA resources it's all here. And so this is what it looks like. Well, how do you get there, right? Go to forums, training videos from the actual like mobile FNA itself. If you click those three dots, it'll pop this out and you click help content. There's an entire like library of things that you can go just sort of like review and study. Okay. And so this is sort of like Primerica 101, like anything that's out there, there's a training aspect built into POL. And so I'm pretty sure Cindy taught me this because I didn't know this stuff was out there. And when we were building this thing like 4 months ago, she was like, "Yeah, you can just go watch all the videos." And I was like, "I just click buttons." Right? And so you can either run fast and break stuff, or you can try to learn everything that's in there. I would highly recommend maybe like a blend of those two. Because if you just try to learn everything, you're not actually doing it, and you're going to learn way more by just doing it. But if you want to go watch some stuff, right? Help content, we'll bring up this mobile FNA sort of tutorial stuff, and you can walk through everything. Everything's in there. Okay. So client awareness and financial independence number, right? So like, do you guys when you guys do, I mean, and this is since there's so few of us guys, just please unmute because it's easier than chat. When we talk about like client awareness, like do you guys ever ask people like when they plan to retire? And when you ask them, what do they usually say? 65, 67, never, right? Well, look, the line back from like the blue page discussion right, is, I mean, the financial needs analysis is sort of like a roadmap for your money. I mean, think about it. Like, do you have like a GPS or a roadmap for your money right now? Most people say no, right? And so it's just remember you're really just sort of like opening the mind and just kind of bringing in awareness for showing people how much of a plan they don't have, right? Like if they're trying to go from A to B, A is today, B is retirement, but they don't know what B is. They can't get there. Like if you don't know where you're going, you would agree you can't get there, Cindy. Am I right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And so like think about it. Do you have a GPS for your money right now? Like do you have a roadmap for that? No. Most people don't, right? And it's not your fault. Most people don't. And so like the goal is financial independence. Because I mean, Cindy, even if you said you were going to retire at 70, right? But if we knew it at 70, it was going to take like 2.5 million and you had 2.5 million today, right? I'm the blue genie. I just give it to you. Well, you're not going to wait till 70 to retire, would you? If you had,
Well,
if you
may
had what it took to,
possibly.
I
It
mean,
depends if I
so,
like what I'm doing.
well, yeah, there you go, right? So like, but here's a better way to look at it. If I gave you enough to retire right now, you wouldn't have to trade time for money anymore. Am I right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you
Yes.
you would have options, right? You would have options. And so that's what we call your FIN. That's your financial independence number. We're just going to show you what's possible, right? You don't have to be rich to invest is what it comes down to, but you'll never get to that financial independence if you don't start. Does that make sense? Yeah, because that's what most of my clients tell me. They say, "Oh, well, man, as soon as I get, as soon as I get this thing paid off, or as soon as I get this going, I'll start investing." And I said, "Look, I love that you're focused on that, but in reality, like we kind of got to do both. I could get you started with as low as $25 a month, And that kind of blows people away usually. They go, really? I mean, I thought it took like a lot. It's like, no, it's actually way more important to start than it is to worry about how much we're doing for now. Right. And we'll walk through that. So don't worry. I'm going to show you what all that looks like. And so when we ask the question of like actually who benefits from an FNA, well, God bless. I mean, the answer is pretty much everybody, right? Because think about how many times you guys have sat down with somebody and they had everything mapped out, right? They knew how much money they needed in retirement. They had all of their life insurance squared away from a personal and maybe even a business perspective. They had their family set up. They had wills and trust, powers of attorney, all that. I think I've maybe met like two people ever out of thousands. Most people literally just don't know what they don't know. And so that's why it's so important to show everybody this. Everybody needs an FNA. Now, I'm not saying we got to do like the full blown, like kit and caboodle, like all of the debt stuff. And because you could spend 10, 15 hours on an actual full FNA and have zero benefit from it from you. Like, because I mean, at the end of the day, like, we're not getting paid for that stuff. And so there has to be some sort of like, reality check on why and when we would do the full FNA. But everybody, you could do a mobile FNA for somebody in 10 minutes, like truthfully, right? So every client should have one. And like in conjunction with that, you should be doing one on every one of your recruits, at least showing them what it looks like during their own KT, right? Whether they move forward or not, irrelevant. But they should see it because then they're going to see the power of how easy the software is to use. Two, they don't have to be good at math, right? And three, they'll get to see what their actual own financial independence number is. It's just about opening their mind, right? Because remember, we want an educated client. And so, Kathy, if you've never done this before, right, the only way to do it is from the app. So open the app, right? Primerica app pops up. You get your three lines up here. Boom. Cindy, I animated this for you because I know how much you love a good animated presentation. So I did it just for you. I swear. I did it like 20 minutes ago.
You're awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome, right?
You have
And
to draw
then
me pictures, okay?
I'm doing it. It's doing it for me. I like it like this, right? So click the tools and then mobile FNA, right? It pops up down here. It's this little guy. It's right below quick quote. Now, if you're not licensed, you can't do this. So if you're showing this to your new recruits and soon to be licensed agents, I would just remind them like, hey, because their Turbo Apps is down here under tools, but they can't get to these guys yet. Or if it shows up, they can't click it. It won't do anything. But that's where you get to the mobile FNA. Okay. And then adding a client and kind of talking them through decreasing responsibility. So when you click it, you'll add them. If they're already in, you just select their name. If they're not, you just add their name and birthday. So I always like sort of like rehashing decreasing responsibility right here. And it kind of just goes back into questions, right? And you would just tailor this to the age of whatever client you're sitting down with, right? So if you're sitting with somebody that's super young, you got to really, really hammer the fact that right now their liability, right, their need for insurance outweighs their assets. This green line represents their money, right? Because I mean, at 25, we all remember we really didn't have anything in the bank, but we had a whole lot of liability if we had spouses and kids and replacing an income, right? So on this side, we're focusing on your life insurance. Like, God forbid something happens to you. Even if I started maxing out all of your investments today, Cindy, that'd be 7 grand for this year, most likely for a Roth IRA. But if I lost you 2 weeks from now, that 7 grand isn't going to do a whole lot for your spouse. That's why we need life insurance, right? And so the life insurance is the first thing we focus on. That's the foundation for the financial house. But Cindy, if you ever want this assets on this side of the chart to outweigh the liability, we need to start over here because that's how we're going to get through that compounding and that rule of 72 we talked about. Sound good? Awesome. So if you think about your age on the bottom, right? Remember the x-axis, like when you're in like geometry or algebra, whatever, graphing, the x-axis is your age. It's like 25 to 75 or 20 to 80, however you want to think about it, right? But somewhere in the middle is somewhere around 50. And that's usually for most people where your assets start to outweigh your liability. Not always, but in general, because your kids are usually almost out of your house. Your house is getting close to paid off, maybe depending on when you bought it, right? Your assets are starting to grow. But as you get into that late 50s, early 60s, that's when we would really say that you should be getting close to becoming self-insured. And that's just sort of what it looks like for most people. Okay. And so that's we call this decreasing responsibility. But here's the thing too, right? And so when we talk about our life insurance, Cindy, like I don't want you paying for life insurance forever. I mean, I know that sounds kind of weird, right? Like I already showed you the whole little chart. Like that's the only, life insurance is the one thing with our name on it. But I'm going to really want to teach you along the way, right, while you're a client, that by the time you get to this point over here and you hit that financial independence number, I mean, if you're sitting on a few million and all of your liability is gone, do you really need life insurance anymore?
Nope.
I mean, need, I would argue no. If you wanted it, you could still have it because at the end of the policy, you can renew it. You don't have to be, you know, healthy. You don't have to do another medical exam. You have guaranteed insurability. You can never be declined, Cindy. How crazy is that? Yeah.
That's that's crazy.
So guys, like this, the other thing behind the mobile FNA is it's your way to kind of keep talking through the products and keep restacking and reminding about value. Okay. It's just a way to do it. It's just a way to do it. Location and privacy, right? So location, this is just wherever the client is. And then privacy stuff, you're basically just saying, listen, like even, oh, slow down, right? Um, you don't have to like send them this document or whatever. I mean, you can, but I- I've never personally done it. I basically like when it comes up, I just say, look, we don't sell any of your information. The only people outside of Primerica that would have access to anything that you would give us from like a information standpoint would be like whatever investment company we decided to use for you. Like if we get to that point, right? This is honestly, you can just go through this pretty quick. Retirement age, the system, if you pull it up, it defaults to 67. You can change that. You can go into your settings and change that to whatever you want. But 67, I leave it there because that's pretty average for most people when it comes to like full Social Security and all that kind of stuff. It's just average retirement age. And so this is where I have mine set. I'm pretty sure like everybody's is set at 67. Income goal, right? And so John and Jane, there are fake clients here. You're just you use their income. You can use net, you can use gross. It kind of depends like how you want to look at it. I generally just use their gross income because that's where most people they'll tell you. And you can put it in monthly or annually. If you put in annual, it will spit you out a monthly income at the bottom regardless. Okay. 80% is the retirement goal that defaults. And the way to talk through that is, hey, so Kathy, listen, you're making 6,500 bucks a month right now in retirement for most people, right? They're going to need roughly 80% of their current income. So for you, it'd be like about 5,200, but they're going to need most of that to retire and not drastically change their lifestyle. Because Kathy, let's be honest, most people, they don't want to change anything. They just want to afford it. Am I right? Yeah, right. And so our goal for you is to make sure that when you retire, you can actually pay yourself this, but we have to account for inflation. Okay. And we're not really including anything from Social Security in here, especially if you have a super young client, because who knows? If it's there, amazing. If it's not, right? We don't want to count on that. And then one last piece, right? Like if you have a client that you know is going to be like me, for example, right? Like I have a military pension and a VA pension. And so that takes a large chunk of what this 80% would be, right? That's a guaranteed check that's coming no matter what. And so you can reduce that. You can have a conversation with the client about it, but just sort of like mentally keep that in, in mind when you're having this conversation. Because if you've got a person who retires and has a, pension coming in of like 4 grand and their monthly income goal is 5,200, you're pretty much there, right? You're pretty much there. And so when we focus on the inflation side of things, well, Kathy, like, listen, today, right, your 5,200 is 80% of your income. But when you retire, let's just say 30 years from now, right, your 5,200 today is going to take almost $12,000 to replace that. And sometimes that's a little bit hard to grasp, right? But so like the simplest way to think about it, Kathy, is like if you bought my bottle today for 5 grand, when you retire X years from now, when we account for inflation, you buy the same thing, it's going to take almost 12 to buy it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's just so another way to think about your inflation is your purchasing power decreasing over time. It takes more dollars to do the same thing, right? And so here it is, right? That 12 grand at retirement, your inflation went up, your purchasing power decreased. So it just takes more. So Kathy, for you as the client, we have to focus on making sure that you achieve the big number or you will run out of money too fast. Does that make sense? Awesome. So here it is, right? Here's your financial independence number, 2.7. So Kathy, from now on, when anybody asks you when you're going to retire, I don't want you to say 67 anymore. I want you to say about 2.7, 2.8, right? Because just like we talked about with Cindy earlier, if you had that 2.8 right now, and I showed you how to live off of 4 to 5% of the money, right? And you live within your means and you can't outlive it, you would only go to work if you really, really wanted to. Am I right? There you go, right? So you would no longer have to trade time for money, which is why we call it financial independence. Nobody's got their thumb on you anymore. Okay. And so here's the assumptions that are built into this. You can change these. These are all editable, right? So 5,200 was the goal, 67, life expectancy is 85. These are all default. The 8 and 4 and the 3, right? So rate of return before, rate of return during, and inflation, those are all default. 8, 4, 3. You can change those so that they apply and change differently on everything. Personally, right? Like a 9, 6, 3 is about right. 9 is pretty standard in terms of most investments. 4% during retirement. I don't know anybody that would move the majority of their money basically into a money market account, right? Like that's kind of wild. And so 6 is, I would say, fairly conservative still, but also very, very achievable. But you can change that to whatever you want. So, or if you just leave the system alone, it'll default to 843 and 67 at retirement, 85 life expectancy. Okay. Current assets, right? So this is having a conversation about whatever a client has currently. So this is their current qualified money, right? So Roth IRA, 401k, 403b, whatever they have in terms of their retirement assets. And if you're talking to a married spouses, right? Put all of that in and then include their monthly savings. When we're talking about the monthly savings, though, you want to make sure that we're putting in whatever they're putting in, whatever their spouse is putting in, whatever their employers are matching. Okay. So easiest way to do this is just pull up the calculator and just have a conversation. Right. So let's just say it was just John, right? So just John is doing 6,500 a month, and let's say his employer is matching him at 5%. I said, great. So John, right? So let me just kind of make sure we're pretty close. John, you're getting paid, twice a month. And so 325 a check. You're putting in on average about 160 bucks a month into your 401k. Is that or a week or God bless, a check? Does that sound about right? And he'll go, yeah, pretty close. I say, perfect. Well, here's the cool thing, John. If you're putting in 325 and your company's matching, watch this. You're actually putting in roughly 650 a month. Did you realize that? And let them think, right? Because that's the only time, right? Your matching retirement plan is the only time you're ever going to double your money on every single investment. Guaranteed, right? I mean, the market might do it for you eventually, but if you're putting in something in and they're putting it in, right, make sure you're accounting for that here. And so the cool thing about it is like people usually freak out when they see that monthly number on the inflation chart because they're going 5 grand and they're looking at 12 and they've never made 12 grand a month in their life, right? And so they're kind of like palpitations, heart rate's up a little bit, blood pressure's a little high. You go, but listen, your money's going to grow just like that number it's going to take to replace it. Right? Your money's going to do the same thing. So did you realize that 200 grand that you've got right now by the time you retire is going to be over 2 million, more than likely? And they're going to go, no, I had no idea. And I said, look, yeah, and that's just with what you're currently putting away right now. Go to the next one. But if you were willing to just jump up to 500, right, you'd be really, really close. But the system says right now we need to get you to about 722. You're doing 300 when it's, 4.5%. We need to get you right at 11. So $722. I mean, but here's the question, right? I mean, Kathy, did you think it would be possible to hit your financial independence number by just doing an extra $100 a week right now over what you're doing? It doesn't sound so scary when you break it down like that, right? And if you knew that you could hit that retirement number, would you do whatever it took to hit that? Perfect. Because look, you're already doing this, and to get there, we only got to figure out like an extra $105 a week. It's a simple way to break it down. And it doesn't all have to be right now, but what I would like to focus on, Kathy, is making sure that you start paying yourself more as early as possible. Is that fair? Awesome. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. So just some basics, right? Especially if you're talking to a really young client, somebody in their like mid 20s, late 20s, roughly 10% annual savings is going to hit their number. Regardless of what their number is now, right? Roughly 10% will hit it. And this is like not changing any assumptions, right? But then here's your other way to sort of start that easier recruit across the kitchen table, right? I mean, Kathy, for most people, if I said, let's save some extra money, right? I kind of get the old like blood from a turnip thing, right? So it would be a lot easier to save it if you were making an extra 400. Am I right? I mean, Kathy, did you realize that most agents that work with us, once they're licensed, if they helped like one client a month, they could make somewhere between 300 and 500 bucks. Every single client. Well, between 300 and 500 is 400. It's ironic. But we can talk about that more if you're interested. Don't harp on it. Just plant the seed. Right. And then from there, like the mobile FNA takes you straight into life insurance because what do most people not know when it comes to life insurance? They don't know how much they should have. They don't even know how much they have currently, right? But if you ask somebody how much do you think you should have, I don't know, right? Like great, well let's let the system tell us, right? They don't even know how much they want, let alone how much they need. And I mean, what's the old joke about clients and their life insurance? What are the three rules? They don't know what they have. They don't know what they have. They don't know what they have. Right. And it's true. Like it's still very rare that I find anybody that can answer a basic question about life insurance without pulling up a document. Very rare. Right. So this should be life insurance results. So when you pull it up, right, the system defaults to like an annual income and an income multiple, right? So like Kathy, you've heard of Dave Ramsey before, right? Like Dave's advice generally when it comes to life insurance, especially if you have kids, a spouse, debt, mortgage, everything like you have, right? Is that you should be covered somewhere between 8 and 12x your income, especially if you're the primary income. I mean, that makes sense, right? But I mean, Kathy, do you remember how much coverage you have at work right now? Like, wasn't it like 1x your salary? Remember, you're just exposing the nightmare. You're just kind of bringing up those points of pain, right? And if they don't know and if they're clueless, then you tell them that that's probably what they have, right? So, Kathy, you're not sure what you have. So, can I tell you, like, just generally the way most group coverages work? That's another yes, right? So awesome. I mean, Kathy, like if you're not paying for it or if you're paying like a few dollars, then generally, right, most clients that I meet have somewhere between one and maybe two times their annual salary in coverage. Or if it's like free, you might have like a 25 or $50,000 policy. Does that sound about right? And here's the fun part. Because whichever one they think it is, if I say, does that sound about right? They're gonna say, yeah. So either way, they're way underinsured or they've only got like one or two X because that's what they just told me. But now when we pull this up and without even changing anything, it's going to say, hey, right, John, you should have about 600. Kathy should have about, 180. And if they've got like 25 or 50, like you could see how we're both like you guys are underinsured. Yeah. And so the income multiples, or you can switch it to a dime method, where it says right here, like change analysis method. You can change that to the actual dime, right? So you can bring up specific numbers for debt. It still has an income multiple portion. You can put in mortgage. You can put like funeral expenses. You can put in education, estate creation. That's done, right? The easiest way to do it is just think, for most people, is just thinking about income. And the simplest way to do that is like, hey, I mean, Kathy, you're the primary income. Like, God forbid something happened to you. How long would your spouse be able to maintain your guys' current lifestyle without your income? And shut up. Shut up and let them answer, right? Or sit there in that awkward silence for a minute because they need to sit in it. They need to ruminate. Because most of them will come back and say, man, well, I guess not super long, right? 1 year. And you say, yeah, like a year, but after a funeral and after a whole bunch of expenses, I mean, what, 6 months maybe? And they, yeah. Like, so you see why we generally advise clients to have whatever life insurance that they need private outside of whatever they're getting from work. Am I right? Awesome. And then application, right? Like you could apply from right here, but don't, because it's just like it's ugly because you never really get to go through the shoebox if you're doing it from here. Because this is just sort of like the generic side of things. You haven't really gotten into the like the shoebox, weekly, monthly, biweekly, all that kind of stuff, right? You're just kind of giving someone an idea. But you could, right? You could apply from right here. It just I don't like it. I don't do it from here. But you can, and you can open an investment, and you can go straight to an IBA. So it's kind of cool because like it takes you straight into the ways to like make it like an action, right? And it shows you what it would be if that's something that they were going to do like all of at one time. So pretty cool in that regard. Questions? Let's see. We went through that pretty quick. So about 25 minutes. It's about where I wanted to be. So I'm going to stop this and then questions. Cindy, you got anything to add?
No, I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Hmm.
Um, I would say if you haven't ever done it before, practice on your spouse or, a friend that comes over, just so that it becomes more fluid for you and have them ask questions because the biggest thing about talking to people about investments is being confident.
Yeah.
And even if the confidence is, you know what, that's a great question. Let me do some research and get back with you.
Hmm.
you know and there's a lot of that when you first start out. It's like, oh my God, I don't know how to answer this, but
Yep.
it's okay because you know where to get the answer from. And that was a big thing for me because when you too, Noah, we didn't know where to go. We didn't know anything. um I just helped one of my people. She just got security licensed and she had to open up an account. I thought she was going to be on today. I don't think she's here. No. um and so we walked through the sand together. And I'm like, wow, I wish somebody would have done this for me.
Right? Yeah.
But that's the whole thing is, Kathy, if you don't have your own accounts opened, go and do the practice accounts. Walk yourself through an FNA. Familiarize yourself with what the screens are going to look like because you're going to come off as more confident when you do that for somebody else.
Way more. Way more for sure. And then Danielle, were you guys or are you doing much mobile FNA stuff or
I don't know. No, I'll just say no. Uh, we brought on that big pop of people, but getting them to meet with me or schedule FNAs with me. Um, but that's what I was going to ask. That ceiling fan's kind of distracted. It's kind of crazy here tonight. Um, like so, talking and studying and doing like looking on POL and watching videos and stuff. But like the company was kind of set up, to meet with the clients and run that full FNA and then
yeah.
come back with plans. Are you ever doing that? I mean,
I do that with clients that one have a need for it and and two that I think will actually like stick around and follow through, right? I am not doing a full FNA for somebody that's been in for like 5, 10 minutes, right? And maybe might want to do something because and it just depends how much you like how much you put into it, right? Because one,
Right.
I send them like a PDF worksheet and I say, you fill this out. If you don't fill this out, I'm not doing it because I need the data, right? Like garbage in, garbage out. And so if you can get me all of this info and it's just income, monthly expenses, debt with interest rates, minimum payments, and balances. If they can't get me that, they ain't serious,
Is
right?
that something you've just made up, or do you have like, did you find it somewhere?
Nice
Because
man.
I like that. Because like, like when Andy had talked to Chris about like you have to schedule these people for investments, like
Mhm.
you got to get some kind of, stay with them. And, then it was kind of, like Chris would text me and say, hey, they can meet Tuesday at 5 o'clock. And I'm like, cool, that doesn't work for me to
So
sit down Tuesday at 5 to do a full FNA. And so I'm like, hey, like I'll jump on and show you how to do an FNA with them.
but
But
I'm with you, right? But you don't need a full FNA to do an investment.
right, right. And I didn't, my investment accounts that I have opened up, like I honestly haven't even done FNAs with them because it was, hey, like I want to open an investment account. We hop on and we open investment accounts, or it's been my clients that we have talked, through it with. But I think, and maybe it's just educating, Chris and the other ones that are bringing people on and writing these policies of how to, because I think he's explaining it to them as, hey, like she can go through this and show you like where you should be saving money and what you need to pay off first, all that. And I'm like, okay, but if this probably sounds crappy, but like if I'm not, all I'm getting is half of an override for a policy. So to sit down with someone for a couple of hours and work on these FNA plans when they're
Yeah.
not great market, like is that
No, no.
time worthy? Like,
Well, one, Chris is licensed, he can do an FNA. The FNA is not a prerequisite or a requirement to do an investment. It's not. Chris should be doing a mobile FNA with these people, showing them what it looks like, writing the Life app, and then booking them on your calendar. He shouldn't be asking you when you're available. If
oh,
your
he's not.
calendar,
He lets the people pick and then he tells me. I'm
well,
like,
yeah,
that doesn't work. Like that, you can't
no,
give
it
me
should
one
work though,
slot.
because if your calendar is set to your availability, then they pick something that's available.
He wasn't. He was saying,
Uh,
hey, you're not available.
Well, that's
Like,
what I'm saying. Like, you say, hey, look,
right,
here's the calendar, right? Grab a slot that's available. Let's pull it up. Let's figure out when you're available and when she's available.
right. Yeah.
But
And
that's
I
what,
just need to do a better job of that because, like, I will make exceptions. Hey, you have money that you need to invest. Like, you don't see an open time, like, call me, like,
yeah.
and that's probably my fault of not giving a better, like, explanation of what I would cut out all family time for to, run a meeting or whatever.
Yeah. So
And it,
this is the basic information that I just threw into a Google sheet from the FNA like budget document, right? So
okay.
it ain't that complicated. It's pretty damn simple, right? It's your monthly expenses, and then the big one is obviously the debt. So green is money in, red is money out. It's pretty simple.
Awesome.
But if they can't do this, do you think I'm wasting hours trying to build them a mobile FNA or like an actual like FNA?
Right. Okay. I love
And that's
that.
why I tell people, look, you got before we get sit down and do this whole thing to try to get you out of debt faster, I got to have data. And I'm not going to sit here with you and have you watch me for an hour as we fumble through this. Go fill this out, get it back to me at a minimum the day before we get back together. I'll go and put all of that in on my time, do a real quick look at it, and then when we get back together, we'll verify everything and then we'll talk about the plan. Sound good?
Okay. I like that.
Because if they can't do it, I ain't doing it.
Right. And that's what I was running into, like, I mean, as well as I do, you get into a market where you're like,
Yeah,
hey, they may show up, but then they're like, no, I didn't bring anything with me. Like,
right.
so, I don't want to sit and chat in the evening with someone, for no
Yeah.
reason, not to sound crappy.
No, but like that's like it ultimately the plan's for them. We're doing it for free. You got to put some effort in on the front end and then we'll get through this together, right? And so, but that's what I just make somebody do it themselves, right? Go do your own homework and then get it back to me.
Okay, yeah, I
So
really
that's
like
what
that
that
because,
looks like.
and I feel like that's going back to like how it kind of was. I like talking to Matt Wandry, last year when we went on the cruise. He's like, we didn't do anything on a first visit except for I get to know them, I get all their information, I go back to them in a week with a file. Here we go.
Yeah.
Like this is what I
So
have for you.
so that's like back, right? And then Ian took it into essentially that model, but getting the life app on that first appointment if it was something that made sense for the client. Because now you're going to go do all that work, but you at least got paid,
Right.
right? And they're protected. Now, if it doesn't make sense, well, sure, don't do it. But that was the mindset coming out of that first appointment. So Ian took the model of sit down, quick presentation, quick overview, like quick FNA, and then let's at least get that life app. Hey, when we get back together, I want to be able to go over XYZ, right? I'm going to need any statements, XYZ, that sort of thing, because they're not going to have that on the first one. And so you're setting that comeback to get those statements, to get all that stuff. But that's why you set the life insurance policy done first, because that's right now, by the time I come back, right, we should have at least a progress update on your life policy. It might actually be issued, sit down and kind of go over all that, right? And so
Gotcha.
that's where Ian took the old version, took it one step a little bit farther in order to start getting something done. Because if you leave and go do like a full FNA for somebody without something like bird in the hand, you're just spinning your wheels.
Right.
I ain't doing that. It's not happening.
Right. And that's what I did feel like, when he was explaining it, because I'm like, okay, how do you get them to, because we don't have the market that's coming in our front door saying, hey, I'm here to do this. Like, how can you help
Well,
me?
no, nobody does. They didn't back then either.
Right. I just think like Edward Jones or whatever, or they were out, in person, they were all in person. So,
Yeah, but there's still like there's still very few people that are coming and going, here's all of my
right,
problems, fix me. Right? Like
right,
those people are very like few and far between.
right.
Uh, Questions, anything else on any of like the mobile FNA type stuff? Okay. Powerful tool, guys, right? Powerful tool. And use that as a way for you to train yourself by doing it with your new recruits. They don't know what they don't know. If you get them, right, get them to an orientation, then set that first appointment with them. Set that first appointment with them and their most important person. That should be happening like no matter what. You know why? Because you should be setting that appointment at the orientation for them. Use just generally and say, I mean, Kathy, let's be honest, just generally when your husband's going to be available. So if we booked an appointment right now and you told him it was super important, he's going to be there because otherwise he's going to catch an earful. Am I right? There you go. Right. And he don't want to catch an earful. He's a smart man. So just generally, when's better for you and his schedule, weekdays or weekends? Weekdays, perfect. You want to do like Monday or Tuesday? That's it. That's it. But that first one has to get booked. So there's literally no reason that if you recruit a person, you shouldn't be doing a KT, an orientation, FNA, all of that, right? Like there should be at least two more appointments booked with that person right after their recruiting appointment within the first week. Like that should be your goal no matter what. No matter what. But yeah, guys, I'm done. Like, there's no reason to stretch this out until 10 unless you have any specific questions. I'll answer whatever you got. But I won't make you sit here and stare at me. Eileen, you came in late. Did you have anything? No, you're muted too, so I don't read lips.
Hold on. No,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I apologize for coming in late.
I don't
I'm
care.
good.
No, you're good. You're good. That's the beauty of the Sunday skills, right? You can go in between any rooms that you want. So no stress. No stress. All right, guys, well, hey, get out of here.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks,
well,
Noah.
I have a question for you. Would you guys prefer if Sunday skills was at 8 Eastern instead of 9?
8 would be so much better.
One, Kathy
So
saying yes. Danielle?
Sundays are just hard for us.
Okay, so Sunday's irrelevant, whether it was at 7, 8, or 8 your time, it wouldn't matter. Cindy?
Yeah.
Either one is fine.
Okay. Eileen?
Either one is fine.
Okay. Okay. I mean, personally, I'm thinking I would rather start to do it a little earlier. Like these late ones is like, especially when I'm teaching, I'm just like, but I also know that when I'm not teaching, I'm only half there when it's this late. So
Well, but you got to remember, we're in Central Time, me and Danielle. So
That's what I was thinking. Like 7 is going to be super hard also because that's, I mean,
that's dinner time, kind of wrapping
yeah,
it up.
well,
yeah.
that's so like that
And
this
family
exact
still have.
conversation is why we chose 9 Eastern in the first place.
Yeah.
Right.
So okay.
Yeah,
But
because then if you've got your mountain people, then you're looking at 6 o'clock. And so
I'm
like
Pacific
Schaffner's
time, so it's 5 or 6 p.m. for me.
Yeah, well, Mountain
gotcha.
is Pacific right now until we change it, right?
the whole when is daylight savings time? That
No,
whole
not
thing
yet.
is just a mess.
At the end of
November.
Halloween.
October.
Oh, it's Halloween?
Yeah.
It's early this year. Holy crap.
I think isn't daylight savings at Christmas? I mean at Halloween.
It's like November 1st.
Kathy's saying
Yeah,
it.
that's what I was thinking. I was
Early
thinking,
November. Okay.
All
Halloween it is.
right.
God bless. Well, all right, guys.
All right.
Um,
Thanks, Noah.
For sure. I will see you guys next Sunday, and we'll probably, I know like next Sunday is supposed to be like a practical exercise, but if it ends up being this small again, we're probably just going to walk through like live, like walking through some like Sam, maybe a little bit of Easy Key. But before we get back together next week, do me a favor. Go to Sam and do a practice app. Go to Easy Key, do a practice app, just walk through those things, right? And there's that way you'll have at least seen the screens, you'll at least see what's being asked for. And then when we get together, we can kind of talk through some of that, like some of the isms, right? And some of the hiccups that Cindy and I faced along the way. And then just
like I did a rollover and somehow the system let me put, I had no idea. Like I do the rollover, get it done, and I'm like, why is this not showing up? And then the recruit is sending me a picture and she's like, it's not showing up. And I'm like, okay. Well, then I get a message one day and I go to call back like 2 days later. Like it was one evening and then I called back like 2 days later and they were like, yeah, sorry, we already mailed the checks back to you. The system let me put in 100.01%. Like, I don't feel like that's my fault. Like, why would it let me put over 100%?
it shouldn't
They
have.
mail it to my office address that I've never been to, that's over an hour away, and they're not there every day. Yeah, it just came yesterday. So yeah, I've got to send it. But I'm like,
The best part is I got that on recording, so